Let us be attentive to a word from our Lord. You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, "You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment." But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to counsel. And if you say, "You fool," you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard it said, "You shall not commit adultery," but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out, throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off, throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than your whole body to go to hell. It was also said, "Whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce." But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard it was said to those of ancient times, "You shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord." But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make your hair white or black. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one. The word of the Lord. Let us pray. Holy God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts here today be holy and acceptable to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. The word of the Lord. Last week, we talked about the gift of public witness. We talked about how, as salt and light, we make one another better. We're supposed to make one another better. And part of that is actually sitting with someone to hear their story, to hear their reality without passing it off or passing judgment. When we come alongside someone, we work with them, work for them to better each other. The public witness, the actions that the people see, the salt and the light. You are the salt of the earth. Letting the world know the gospel because we do everything we can to make it better around us. Last week, Jesus says, "You're the salt, you're the light." This week, after we've been affirmed of being the salt and to make everybody better, and the light to show the gospel, this week, he takes one of those fantastic savior turns, hard left, and we got to deal with it. Yeah, you're the salt, you're the light, but you mess up. We mess up. See, Jesus does this thing. He always does it. He takes everything one step further. Okay? We got to go over here. We can't just hang out over here. Don't kill anyone. Super, I can handle that. I'm not going to kill anyone. He says, well, don't be mad at anybody either. Whoa, hold the phone, Jesus. I don't know if you know me. But I function out of anger. I got this little rage monster that lives inside of me, and it's like, ah, be mad at everybody. Super, thanks, Jesus. Hey, everybody, I'm real sorry. You're all here right now for the most part. My bad. Apologize. Can that one cover them all, or do every time I gotta go back? He does this all the time. He takes it this extra step where we have to like wallow it, try to figure out what it means, and it just seems so extreme. It's hard, it's difficult. I will go back 100 times, and anybody that tells you when you become a Christian, life is easier. It may have got better, but it ain't easier. It got harder. Because now there's all these extra laden expectations placed upon us. Don't be mad. If you get mad, you gotta go apologize for being mad. Don't do this, because if you do, you gotta fix it. I can't just go around making a fool of myself. But he takes it a step further, I believe. Because what he's saying is, what he's always saying is that our lives are about relationships. Relationships with one another. And when they're broken, we have to find ways to fix them. Or we have to find ways to not destroy them in the first place. Yeah, go kill someone. But also work to live in a peace and an order and a love with other people. Take it that step further and not slander and abuse one another. It's a discourse on relationships. It's that thing that Jesus brings us right back to. How do we interact with one another every single day? Right? Jesus tells us it's easy, super easy. Having faith, being a Christian, super easy. All you got to do is love God with every ounce of who you are. Mind, body, soul, all of it, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. All of it summed up right there. Nice little, put the ribbon on it package. Go forth and do. Have you met me? Have you met we? You think it's that easy, Jesus? Have you put a bunch of different people in a room and just said, go ahead. Let's see what happens. We're people. We're flawed, we're broken, and so we do these things. We break these covenant and these commands. Our text today, he takes the 10 Commandments and he expounds on some of them. For years, this was used to say that Judaism was null and void. So this was used as a hinge for anti-Semitism. Because, well, Jesus said that those aren't even good enough. Well, that's not what he's saying. So, no anti-Semitism here. In fact, the irony of that thought process is really strong, because if we're saying that, the Jews are bad because Jesus says don't insult them, don't slander them, you need to go be reconciled. And the irony of that's pretty heavy for those who have used it that way. So don't hear me saying this. What Jesus is doing is he's just taking it one step further. Saying this is how we work with one another. I'm going to focus mostly on anger today. He talks about that anger. He talks about adultery. Now, women, you're not named here, so I guess you can just close your ears and ignore me. I don't know why, but it just says, guys, if you look at her with any sort of lust, you've already committed adultery. Why just us? But it's that step further, right? I think it can be expanded even further to say when we lust after anything, when we place that thing as the most important thing in our lives, it detaches us from that first portion of love God and love neighbor. When we lust, it's huge, it's big, it's not just, it specifically says men looking at women, but I think it's so much bigger. I think it's what we put as the most important thing. When we look at something and we say, that is the most important thing in the entire world, I've got to have it. And all of a sudden, I have forgotten. My heart has forgotten the really, actual, most important thing of God. and standing firm in that. About 50% of our marriages in these days end in divorce. I hate this. Here's the deal. Men in ancient times could divorce their wives. I could look at Beth and be like, you can't cook. I'm out. That's how it worked. You said I smelled bad today before I even got my shower. Here's your certificate of divorce. I'm out. It was as petty of a system as possible, and men abused it willfully. They abused it because, I wonder why, lust came first. They could abuse a system put in place so that people could get out of bad relationships. Could get out of relationships where they were abused in them. I don't know if this extends quite to the extent. And it's a tricky one. This is trickier than the she-bears with the youth group. When the system is abused, when the people are abused within it, thus the problem is found. When the lust is so strong that I could look at her and say, you know what? I'm not committing adultery. Bye. It doesn't work. Rather, the system should not be used just to destroy relationships. And then he goes to oaths. Let your yes be yes, and yes, and your no be no. Don't make oaths. Promises make broken relationships. I'm going to talk further about that when you come see me. I'm not going to spill my dirty laundry up here from the pulpit, but I'll be more than happy to tell you what broken promises does. They make broken people. They make people who are afraid to step boldly into relationships with one another. They make people afraid to be open and honest. All of these things that he builds on are about broken relationships. They're about destroyed relationships, about abused relationships, and how we don't do anything about them, and how we just willfully go about destroying people's lives, and it's okay. How we can talk and slander, how we can destroy one another and just walk away. Throw people away like they're wadded up pieces of paper. Friendships, work relationships. I don't know, I think it was Cheryl. She said, has anybody ever been in a professional setting? That was today's Sunday school. Anybody ever been in a professional setting and had someone, they were like, oh, good Lord, I cannot deal with being around you. Come on. Yes. Okay, there we go. I at least got like some head nod. Yes. Personal settings, professional settings. Yeah. There are people that drive us up a wall. I used to know a person who just, well, I still know them. They're not gone, but the sound of her voice, it's not my wife. The sound of her voice alone. I'm like 2 rooms away, I think. But Jesus says, "Word is said, don't murder. But I say to you, if you are even angry with a brother or sister, you are liable for judgment. If you insult, if you insult a brother or sister, you are liable to counsel. And if you say you fool," we may not say you fool anymore. We've become a little more crass in our language. You are liable to the hell fire. Anybody else convicted in this moment? Just a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. Now, I don't think there's a person in here who can say without a doubt, never have I ever said harsh things, been in a group where harsh things were said, never thrown an insult. I've never said someone was a fool. Never had a fight with another person where I called them an idiot or stupid or thought their ideas were the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Have we never thrown around slander or vile and venom behind someone else's back? Jesus makes it very clear what we deserve. And it ain't pretty. This is the daily struggle we have. It's relationships. The daily struggle in our lives is about relationships. Now, some of us get up and like, I don't want to go to work because I don't want to do the work. Now, some of us might love the work, but not love the people we do the work with. We know how to irritate each other. We know how to push buttons. We know how to do that. We've been around people all the time. Let me tell you about an experience. Again, not with my wife. I used to live with my best friend, John. We lived with each other for my senior year of college and then the summer between seminary and college. John and I were as thick as thieves. We pulled pranks together. We fall back in. Whenever I go to Denver, I gotta go see John. And we fall back in like it's old times. You're that kind of friend. And it's just the best. There's not a human being, and I mean this, a human being on this planet who just make me matter. Just send me through the roof. He knows everybody. It's like having a brother. Watch this. If I poke these 3 buttons, Dan's going to burn this building down. And did. He just knows. We have that person. It doesn't. Man, I can remember the summer before I left to go to seminary, we were sitting on the couch watching TV, and he just kept saying, poking the bear. I'm not proud to admit this, but I had control of the TV. So I threw the TV controller at his face. Didn't change the channel, I slung it right at him, and I stormed out of the house. Now, obviously, if I can fall back in when I go to Denver, we've reconciled, we made amends. He apologized, I apologized. But you know those people, right? They poke those buttons and do it. Here's the thing. Maybe it was good I slung that TV controller at John's head because it broke the tension or whatever. But here's the real problem. We come to this table where outrageous grace is felt, where the body's broken and the blood's poured out. But we come to it holding on to that anger, gripping it, letting it seethe and darken our hearts. Just holding on to it because, they wounded me. They hurt me. And I'm so mad. And I just let it sit in there. And I let it sit and grow and fester. And before I know it, there's no room for God inside my festered, darkened, dank, angry heart. Before I know it, there's no room for anything else but my anger and my rage and my hate for that person. And then I'm going to come to this place. And experience outrageous grace. I'm not going to experience it. There's no way I'm going to be able to experience the grace of that body broken and that blood poured out for me when there's no room for it. Because I've sat on my anger and my hatred. I've thrown the insults. It makes us feel good when we hold on to some sort of righteous indignation. Well, get huffy. I'm better than that person because they did this to me, and then I'm going to hold on to it. And all of a sudden, what we worship, what we kneel at the altar of, is our anger, our hate, our frustration. And we say things like, God, I'll increase my pledge this year. Or gospel or promise to preach better sermons, but man, let me hold on to my anger, my bitterness, my unwillingness to forgive. Let me hold on to that. And we feel righteous about ourselves, and then we insult another and call another names and gossip and slander. We nurse our own anger in that. And we help burr the soul-killing anger in the person we abuse. If we are unwilling to forgive, unwilling to be reconciled, unwilling to go to our brothers and sisters, what are we doing to them? What are we doing to them if we're unwilling to speak to them and be honest about it? It builds and it grows and the judgment seethes. We miss so much here because we hold on to it. Jesus says it when you're offering your gift, and you're coming to the table, and you remember that a brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift, stop at the table, be reconciled, and then come back. Come to terms quickly. Where would we be? Where would we be as a society if we were able to name our grievances openly to one another? Just go. I know you have a problem with me, let's talk about it. I have a problem with you, let's talk about it. Naming and claiming portions of that are the first thing that has to be done. Jesus says before we come here, we have to say, I got this problem with you. I got this problem. To be reconciled, let's speak it out loud. Let's speak to one another. Last week we listened to one another. Let's speak to one another. Acknowledge the wrongs. Bring forth reconciliation. Reconciliation doesn't have to mean that now Barb and I are best friends. But we're good. It doesn't mean we're going to go out and hang out all the time, but we're good. We're reconciled. Reconciliation means, actually, Barb and I don't have anything wrong. We're just talking. Do we? Reconciliation means that I see Barb as a beloved child of God. I don't see my anger. I don't see my hate. I don't see my judgment. I don't gossip, but I see her for who she is as a beloved child. Doesn't mean we're going to be best friends. We're only able to do that because of the gift we were given first. Because we are resurrection people. Because we are people who can stand at the foot of the cross, look past it and see an empty tomb and know that we have been given reconciliation and grace beyond measure, and we will continue to be given grace and reconciliation beyond measure, and we are first a forgiven, beloved people. So we have to start there. We have to remember who we really are. And then we go to our brothers and sisters. We speak about the hurts. Brothers and sisters, the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you. Maybe not. I'm going to go downstairs and sit in my office. Y'all need to talk. I'll be there. Having heard the word read,